At a Surabaya hospital, the family of Hayati Hamid have come to collect her body. She is the first of the 162 people on board Flight 8501 to have been recovered and identified. On the flight with her on Sunday, and still missing, are her husband, her daughter and her mother-in-law. As her coffin was carried out, the skies over Surabaya opened, a reminder of just how fast the weather here can change, just as it did on Sunday morning over the Java Sea.
The families of this first victim now can start the process of grieving and laying the body of their loved one to rest. But for the families of the more than 150 others who are still missing, they still really have no idea where their bodies are. And that's why finding the rest of the aeroplane remains the most urgent and vital task.
Out in the Java Sea, the search continues, but so far to no avail. The waters are brown and murky, churned by the rain and winds. It could be days before divers can go down to start searching the sea floor. Back in Surabaya, Kevin Kwana is waiting for news of his classmate and best friend, Stephanie Gunawan. This is a video he shot of her at college last semester. She loved singing, he says, and chocolate ice cream. At this, her favourite ice cream parlour.
Yes, aku juga suka pergi.
We loved singing together, he says. We had a favourite Indonesian song we used to sing. I miss her terribly, because she was my best friend. If I had a chance, I want to tell Stephanie that I still need her. Tonight in a village outside Surabaya, Hayati Hamid's body was laid to rest, according to Muslim tradition. There will be many more scenes like this in the coming days, but not until they find the missing plane. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News, in Surabaya.
Well, Brian Spector's the co-founder of the internet security firm Certivox. He's got a long career spanning the computer security industry, and he's here, as you can see. Brian, thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Is this kind of thing pretty widespread and commonplace, but we just don't hear about it?
Well, I think what you have to realize is that in the context of the events that have folded out over the last 2 weeks, the press has been saying, well, the next war is going to be a cyber war. What actually is happening is that we are in the next war. The cyber war is now. So when you step back and you see that RSA key tokens were effectively hacked in order to gain access to systems that use those products to effectively safeguard intrusion into those systems, then you realize that really this is a level of sophistication that can only be behind state-sponsored governments, for instance, or state actors that can be behind these activities.
And we've heard this phrase, sort of state-sponsored, in connection with this. I mean, who are the most likely suspects? Well,
you have to have a degree of economic resources to be able to do this. So that winnows out about 80% of the countries, and it's a few countries on that list that really can affect this kind of effort to gain access to those systems. But really what it is anybody that's got or looking for gain or leverage on a geopolitical scale, because information is really the new currency these days, and it's much easier in effect to alter geopolitical events by breaking into systems like the IMF than it is through conventional warfare.
And how sophisticated would an attack like this have been, from what you understand?
It really runs the gamut. What you're looking at now, and what's really most worrying for firms like us, is that with the blend of social networking creeping into enterprise systems, the consumer or the individual, like any war out there, really is the ultimate casualty and takes the brunt of the most damage. So you'll find that these state-sponsored actors will do things like compromise Gmail accounts, for instance,
right,
to gain access, as you saw last week, to U.S. State Department officials' personal information that could then lead on to compromise other systems. So what we have found in our research is that we really need to take a more proactive stance, both as industry and government agencies, to, in effect, arm the citizen so that they can protect their own information against this kind of damage.
And how much money are businesses, companies spending to try and guard against attacks?
It's in the billions,
right,
and it's growing. But ultimately what happens is that the systems that you put in place to safeguard the information, in effect, can have such a negative impact on the usability of those systems so you in effect tighten the lock on the box so much that nobody can get it open. That there's a fine balance there, and I think the challenge for information security companies is to make those systems more usable for the average user on the internet out there right now.
It's fascinating stuff. Brian, thank you very much indeed for coming in to talk to us. That's Brian Spector, who is a co-founder of the internet security firm Certivox.
Thank you.
Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott will be touching down in Delhi today, Thursday, with the aim of strengthening a strategic partnership with India. During the visit, Mr. Abbott is expected that he will be signing an agreement on nuclear safeguards that would pave the way for Australian companies to sell uranium to India. To discuss the significance of this deal, I'm joined by Rory Metcalf, an expert in nuclear arms control and India-Australia relations. He joins us now via webcam from Canberra. Mr. Metcalf, thank you so much for joining us. Will this deal between the Indians and the Australians impact greatly on the Australian industry?
I don't think that business or industry is really the primary issue here. I mean, there will be, assuming that actual commercial sales go forwards following this agreement, there will be some impact on the Australian uranium mining industry, which, although it's one of the biggest in the world, has some of the largest reserves in the world, it still has an enormous amount of development to do. But I think we're talking the hundreds of millions of dollars rather than the billions of dollars. There's a wider strategic context, I think, which is more important.
You had Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visiting India earlier this week, but Japan and India were not able to conclude a nuclear technology agreement due to reports of some safeguard issues. Doesn't Australia have the same concerns here?
Well, I think a lot of countries have been working to build, I think, normal nuclear commerce with India, really following the US-India nuclear deal back in 2008. And Japan and Australia are among many countries, Canada is another example, France, a lot of the European countries, that are in principle willing now to do nuclear commerce with India. But clearly there are differences from country to country about the precise safeguards they want. And I think an important distinction here is that Australia is looking to potentially export uranium to India, whereas Japan, it would have been much more about nuclear technology. And having said all of that, the statement released by Mr. Modi and Mr. Abe at the end of the visit a few days ago really makes it clear that that they're still working towards that agreement. So it's being delayed, but I think it will come in time.
But you personally, Mr. Metcalf, what are your concerns about other countries having commercial deals with India?
I think that there need to be very strong safeguards in place, clearly, for any nuclear commerce with India, but it shouldn't be dismissed out of hand. There was a time a few years ago where many countries, Australia included, simply said we will have no nuclear commerce with India because India hasn't signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Now, there are all sorts of reasons for that. It's a complicated history, but there's been a broad recognition in the nuclear suppliers group, the group of exporting nations, that they can in principle do business with India, provided there are safeguards in place. What we need to see is clarity about the separation of India's civilian and nuclear reactors, and I think, I guess I assume, because I haven't seen the agreement that is reportedly going to be signed in Delhi this week, I assume that there's been sufficient progress on that issue. And of course, finally, there needs to be inspections, allowance for inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency to ensure that uranium is not being diverted to military uses. If those things can be done, then I think broadly countries like Australia can proceed to help provide India with uranium for energy production.
Still many issues to be dealt with. Rory Metcalf from the Lowy Institute for International Policy in Canberra, thanks so much for your insights.
With any great film, any great performance, comes controversy and questions. And I know that there is one lingering question in the back of your minds. It's a fundamental question. I think it's only fair that we air it out tonight. And that question is, how the hell do you pronounce his name? It's okay, it's all right, I've been there. And I'm here to help. My job tonight is to help you. So if you will say with me now, David Yellow-o. It's worse than I thought. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. Repeat after me. Whoa. Low-o. Yellow-o. Oh, yellow-o. David, oh, yellow-o. In situations like this, I found it sometimes helps to sing it. So, if you will sing it with me now, repeat after me, okay? Oh, yell. Oh, yell, oh, yell. Oh, yell, oh, yellow, yellow-o. Oh, yellow-o. Everybody. Oh, yellow, yellow, yellow-o. Oh, yellow-o. Come on, people. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my profound pleasure to introduce to you your Breakthrough Performer of the Year, a man whose name will one day be synonymous with Poitier and Olivier, my friend, the bold, the beautiful, Mr. David Oyelowo.
You know you have broken through when Brad Pitt sings your name. Wow, that was incredible.